All right, so with the funerals today of Sherry Bebas and her boys, which I've been crying all day, and I'm not even asking because I can't understand, I can't process it, I can't wrap around my head why Hashem would do something like that, but that's a different topic. But they've been dead for like 14 months already, since like a month after the war started. So their bones, their bodies were in Gaza, but where were their neshamas for 14 months? Like, and they died al Kiddush Hashem. So where were they?
Actually, you are so on topic because that's
Uh,
exactly what we were going to talk about. Oh my gosh, yeah, I'll ask a question that put us
uh,
on topic, not off topic. Person that dies, al kiddush Hashem. So, just for them specifically, I understand the pain
mm,
of your question, and I want to reassure you on that. And that's exactly the first thing we were going to talk about today.
okay.
Whenever anyone passes away, that modern secular America, a person could die and get buried 6 weeks later, 2 months later. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but you got to make it work, and this one has to get off from work, and this one has to this, and this one has to this. Hopefully, not so much in the Jewish community, but definitely, definitely people push off the burial. Now, pushing off the burial is intense pain for the soul, intense pain
Uh,
for the soul. But it does the soul is not stuck in the body until the burial. So the soul still disengages, still goes through all the processes we've explained, but at the same time, since there is a connection between the soul and the body, even though the soul is now up there in the heavenly abodes, it still has a connection to the body and it still feels pain that the body's not buried. So the soul's in pain. It's very hard for the soul. There's a number of things like what else does secular America do that's so painful for the soul is what they call, I forget the term, showings. You know, they put
mhm.
on makeup. That's like horrible for the soul, incredibly painful. But that doesn't mean the soul's in the body because they're doing that. It doesn't mean the soul's in the body because the body has not yet been buried. So the soul disengaged from the bodies, and of course, in these situations, went straight up. We can't even imagine how high, as we're about to say. But for anyone in any of those situations where there wasn't immediate burial, it's not preventing the soul's ascent. It's just that there's a pain that the soul experiences until the body is properly buried. My
Mm.
feeling about this whole situation is say more Tehillim and listen less to the news. The more we listen to I was speaking to someone in Israel today, and she was saying how she had this whole anxiety attack, like a full-blown panic attack. I'm like, I'm not surprised at all. It's like, no, nothing to do with that. I'm like, of course, I mean, whatever, fine, had nothing to do with that, you know?
So if they die al Kiddush Hashem and they go straight up to Shemayim or wherever Gan Eden, then why do we have to go through all the processes?
They don't. They
Are they
skip them
okay?
all. They skip them all.
Okay, okay, perfect. Okay,
That
that was
is
okay.
that is the yeah, it's interesting the Ashgacha Pratis because as I was saying, we've been meandering through the topic at such length, because we do other things as well. But it is very timely, of course, to say this today, obviously, and obviously, Yael said she was crying all day. I think many,
I
many
couldn't
people
stop.
all over the world were crying all day, and I really feel this, and this might not sound right, but I really personally feel watch the news less, listen less, say Tehillim more. When we say Tehillim, we're doing something to help. When we're glued to the news and the next video and the next, it just rips us apart another time and rips us apart another time. And I don't think it's helpful. I mean, obviously we need a certain amount of information, but then I think we get too much, and that's why I think we're all in such pain. But if a person dies al kiddush Hashem, as of course they did, as of course anyone who ever dies because they're a Jew is dying al kiddush Hashem.
Hmm.
Meaning all of those people October 7th, that high, high, high majority, I can say 100% because there might have been an exception, but as far as we know, 100%, so we'll just say high, high, high majority, were Jews that didn't live a Jewish life, didn't think about being Jewish. Many of them were probably people that, you know, don't want to go into anything negative, but we understand. Every single one of those people died al kiddush Hashem. Any soldier who dies defending Eretz Yisrael dies al kiddush Hashem. It doesn't make a difference how he lives his life. It doesn't make a difference what he claims his religious beliefs are. That's completely irrelevant. Dying al kiddush Hashem does not mean you have to be a ultra connected to Hashem person. It means you're dying for Jews or because you're a Jew. Too many examples, and many of them are very, very recent. But obviously, any hostage, anything October 7th, any person for Eretz Yisrael, I mean, that man in California at that rally, I mean, that's dying al kiddush Hashem.
Hmm.
You pass away because you're a Jew. That's dying al Kiddush Hashem. So if a person dies al Kiddush Hashem, the normal process that we've been discussing and have learned in very extensive detail is different in two critical ways. Let me just finish this, Lise, and I'll take a question or comment. One is that person is called a kadosh, which loosely will translate as a holy person. Again, it has nothing to do with how they live their life. Their death created their status of being a kadosh, which means they don't need any of the cleansing that we've discussed, right? We spoke about the preliminary cleansings, which were called Kabbalistically kafakela, sorry, chibut hakaver, kafakela. They don't need that. Gehenim, the whole concept of Gehenim that we discussed extensively, Gehenim shel Eish, Gehenim shel Sheleg, the purgatories of snow and fire. They don't need that. They don't need any cleansing at all. Their death, the supreme sacrifice of their death, and again, it doesn't make a difference if they willingly sacrificed or unwillingly sacrificed. That has nothing to do with it. Meaning someone could willingly, like, of course, there were amazing, called heroes, unbelievable people that went into the fray, that went there to rescue Jews, that to fight the Arabs, to fight the terrorists. And of course, there's people that were just whatever. Doesn't make a difference. Anyone who dies al Kiddush Hashem, who dies because they're a Jew, who dies defending Jews, who dies defending Eretz Yisrael, is a kadosh, has no need for any of the after-death cleansing. Their death was their cleansing. That's one point in which they're different than any other person. The second point is this death, this giving up their life because they're a Jew, creates enormous reward that they will enjoy in Gan Eden. Meaning, again, someone who was killed because they're Jewish, someone who died defending Eretz Yisrael. They have a godly energy created by their death because, as we've discussed Gan Eden, we understand that Gan Eden has something to do with what you did in this world. Gan Eden is, again, there was different explanations. Either it's literally your Torah and mitzvos, primarily Torah, if you remember, are creating the energy you receive in Gan Eden, or they're primarily your mitzvahs now are the filters for the energy of God that are flowing in Gan Eden. But either way, what you did in this world is creating the quality of your Gan Eden. Of course, there's always the concept, as we've emphasized many times, of people sending you care packages, of people that love you and think about you doing things in your merit, and that accrues in your bank account. You can't put anything else in your bank account when you pass away, but anyone that loves you or any child automatically does and is. But basically, you're sort of limited to how you lived your life. But by a kadosh, by someone who dies al Kiddush Hashem, even if their entire life, chas v'shalom, they didn't serve Hashem at all, that sacrifice of death, even if it was an unwilling sacrifice, they weren't looking for it, they didn't want it, they tried to escape it, it doesn't make a difference. They gave up their life for God. In the end of the day, that's what happened. And that creates the energy that they will receive, the enormous reward that they will receive in Gan Eden. So this is very different, just to understand it, to compare it to, let's say, what we call a tinok shenishba. A tinok shenishba, which of course is the original term referred to Jewish children that were literally kidnapped. This happened a number of times in our history, especially in certain eras. Sometimes literally, yes, by gypsies that would kidnap Jewish children and then would sell them to like people that were looking for children. And sometimes it was other situations of people that grabbed Jewish children. I mean, whatever. I know a modern day situation of a modern day. I mean, the person's a very old lady now, but like this was someone who was like a baby in like 1940. She was literally kidnapped and grew up not knowing she was Jewish at all until she was well in her 80s. So that term, a tinok shenishba, means a child that was captured, that grew up among the Gentiles and has no clue about, they don't even know they're Jewish, let alone they know anything about Judaism. I mean, all these children of the Holocaust, where their parents gave them to Poles or whoever the people were to raise them, and most of those parents never came back to get them. Most of the time, there's nobody to come back to get them. And sometimes there was, and the people wouldn't give them back. Sometimes they couldn't find the people. They didn't want to give away the children, so they made sure the children were not findable. Those children grew up as Poles. They had no clue they were Jewish. Generally till their parents' deathbed, and since they were generally religious Catholics, on their deathbed confession, they would tell them that they were Jewish. Those people are the pure, absolute definition of a tinok shenishba. Have no clue they're Jewish, know nothing about Judaism. And for such a person, we say there's no concept of punishment. God can't punish you if you have no clue that you're a Jew and what it means to be a Jew and what are the obligations to be a Jew. Loosely, we use that term, as of course you know, for anybody who's raised without an awareness of the responsibilities of being a Jew. Meaning, if an American secular Jew today, who knows Jewish absolutely, they have some type of seder, Manischewitz matzah with their whatever. No Jews are supposed to fast on Yom Kippur. Never bothered going to that type of seder anyway. It doesn't make a difference. They don't know anything about Jewish. They don't know what it means to be a Jew. They don't understand the obligations to be a Jew. They don't understand God. They don't understand the soul. They know nothing. Whatever little they think they know is basically nothing. So any such person is called a Tinok Shenishba. As a Tinok Shenishba, the status is that there's no punishment. Obviously, serving God brings you blessings and benefits every minute of your life, which they don't have because they didn't serve, but there's no punishment. There's no punitive cleansing consequence for anything they did wrong because God can't punish someone who has no awareness. But, and this is why I'm bringing this into contrast, there's also generally not too many merits. Meaning they're not going to get punished after 120. They will not have punishments for what they did wrong. They didn't know. They're blameless. But their Gan Eden is going to be weak also. Again, just being Jews. Jews are by nature good people, kind people, gracious people, generous people. So there could have been things they did over their lifetime, a few things, but probably not that much. So even though they won't be punished, but they will still have a very paltry Gan Eden. That's why I'm always so grateful when my husband, who's very regularly, for someone who's already just turned 60, every Friday goes and does tefillin, what we call mitzayim, with Jews, and generally these are older people, and when they pass away, I always feel like, wow, they were so lucky. They were so lucky that at the end of their life, they got some mitzvahs in. They got some jewels to leave this world with. So that's a critical difference. A kadosh, someone who passes away, al kiddush Hashem, has no punishment, but also has the enormous reward. Someone who's a tinok shenishba has no punishment, but also probably doesn't have too many merits. So of course, who knows? Maybe they did very special things for God at the same time, and hopefully they all did. Eliza, what was your comment or question?
So when it comes to dying al Kiddush Hashem, what about those people who on Simchas Torah, October 7th, were not Jews? They were there for economic reasons, and they were still murdered because they were just in the way of the attempt to kill Jews.
Or were taken hostage and died in
Right.
captivity.
Exactly, exactly. So what about them? What about what their soul is, even if it doesn't have the same components that our soul has, but it's still the soul. Do they still, what happens with their soul?
That's a really good question. So I'm going to say two things. One, I'm going to say that God is just and kind and compassionate. So knowing all that, I am sure that Hashem makes it work out. Meaning, in whatever way he can, I'm sure that these people have what we would call a reward for dying because they were Jews. On the technical level, which is the only level I can answer on, a non-Jew who is not one of Hasidei Umos Ha'olam, which is a Torah term for what we call a Noachide, which is actually a Latin term, but we use it. I use it all the time, but I'm saying the true term is Hasidei Umos Ha'olam. If a non-Jew is not a Noachide, there's no concept of the afterlife. There's no concept of Gan Eden. Meaning it's a tremendous innovation, but we know it's halacha. Literally, Maimonides, Rambam writes it as part of halacha in Mishnah Torah. That Hasidic Ummos Ha'olam have Olam Haba. They have Gan Eden. They don't have the same Gan Eden as Jews, but there is a Gan Eden. There's a special place for the souls of Noachites. If one is not a Noachide, there's no concept of Gan Eden. I'm not here to paskin, but let's go back to the Holocaust, where some people, I don't want to say names because I don't want to speak bad about anyone, but I think you'll understand what I'm talking about. Some famous examples of people that literally risked their lives to save Jews, but were very clearly by their behaviors not Noachide. Some of those people that risked their lives survived the war, and some of the people that risked their lives died. But very clearly by their behaviors, they were not Noachide. But they 100% risked their lives to save Jews. So what's their Gan Eden like? The answer is they don't have Gan Eden. They're not a Noachide. Only Hasidei Ummos Ha'olam can have Gan Eden. That's it. At the same time, Hashem, who is all-knowing and all-wise and all-just and fair and compassionate, I have no question that he figured it out. So I don't know what he did. That's what I'm saying. I can only tell you what's. I try not to make up things. You know, I try to tell you what I know, what's written. What does that mean? I don't know. I don't know. You know, I could create a lot of fantasies in my head of what that means, but I don't know. But all I can say is, I know it says that Hashem does not deny the reward of any creature. The example given, our sages give, is the dogs. That, you know, because the dogs didn't bark when the Jews were leaving Egypt, that whole concept, there's a reward for them. Why? It's a dog. True. But Hashem never withholds the reward of any creature. So I have no question that every person who died because they were with Jews on October 7th, or died because they were taken hostage with the Jews and died there, or died or lived and saved Jewish lives in the Holocaust, I have no question that God figured it out. But from a technical perspective, there's no concept of a Gan Eden or an Olam Haba for them. So such a neshama, so going back to the idea of the Kadosh, the person who died al Kiddush Hashem, such a soul, like any other soul, can still have reincarnation. In other words, even though I'm telling you that there's no concept of punishment, there's no need for punishment, and unlike the Tinok Shenishba, there is reward, tremendous reward for the tremendous light they created by their dying in this fashion, but they still could have the need for reincarnation, just like any other soul could have the need for reincarnation, as we've explained reasons. Possibly, as we said about other souls, a part of the soul remains above in Gan Eden, while the other aspect goes down, right? It's like the flame. You can ignite another flame, and the first flame is still intact. We've explained that souls have to come back until they learn or fulfill every commandment. So even a person who died al Kiddush Hashem would still have to come again. This obviously isn't their first lifetime either. But I'm saying if there were still some commandments they hadn't learned or fulfilled, they would have to come back for that. It doesn't take away that piece of the puzzle. But in terms of punishment, absolutely no need. In terms of reward, there's enormous reward. And they could at the same time still have reincarnation. And they will, meaning whatever happened to their body, every Jewish body will ultimately have the resurrection. So there's reincarnation, which this soul might need, even though they died al Kiddush Hashem. And then there's ultimately, for every Jew who ever lived, resurrection. And every single Jew who ever lives will have resurrection of that soul in that body. Even though I and you and all of us are, from a soul perspective, a composite of all of our previous lifetimes. All those lifetimes are me. But at the same time, I'm me, and my previous lifetime was him or her. And each one of us has our own body. And each soul body will have and deserves to have its own resurrection. And no matter what state the body was in by the passing, that body will be resurrected exactly as they were, and then will instantly heal, and whatever happened to the body will be cleansed and brought to health, and they will live as that person. Any other questions on this? Okay, so we were talking about the souls in Gan Eden. Actually, I just mentioned that. And just to like wrap up a few of the details, the souls in Gan Eden are primarily learning Torah. Like, that's what they do. Don't worry if you say, I don't like to learn, I'm not into learning. All a soul wants is to learn Torah. Before a person is born, we say that every soul is taught all of Torah, like pre-taught it to be able to absorb it in this world. And after a person passes away, and ultimately the soul, or in a Kadosh right away, the soul ascends to Gan Eden, they learn Torah. And through learning Torah, they're connecting to Hashem. They're not learning Torah in a fashion of receiving reward. As I said, you can't put anything else in your bank account. So it's not reward as we understand reward for learning Torah. It's learning Torah for the purpose of being one with godliness. In our world, we learn Torah and are one with God. Above, they learn Torah and they're one with godliness, which is all they want. Aliza?
I have two questions. So the first is, so even right now, okay, there's the Torah that we learn, and there's the Torah that the men learn. What does that mean? Like I have an incorrect understanding that a person can only attend those shiurim in Gan Eden based upon what they acquired in Alam Hazeh.
No,
No.
that's incorrect. No.
Oh, good. So we're going to all the shiurim then. Big
Whatever
smorgasbord.
ones your neshama wants.
Ah, okay. So that brings me to the other question, which is, so what about those people who have different challenges in their learning right now? But
Irrelevant. It's
it's
nothing to do with
irrelevant.
their soul.
Gorgeous.
Nothing to do with
Okay,
their soul.
thank you.
Absolutely. Just like by Mashiach, when all the darkness of Golos is gone, all of those people alive now, and those people that are resurrected, none of that will be there. If you know someone today who's mentally ill, when we have the complete revelation of Mashiach, they won't have that mental illness. You'll know them as they really are, not with their mental illness. How many people in our world are traumatized by who knows what, have such deep scars, which affects how they behave? The scars are going to be wiped away, right? The verse says, all tears will be removed, all of the pains will be removed, all of our not healthy behaviors because of those pains will also be removed. Any deficits, any special need child, any person who's intellectually challenged, all of that will be removed. Compared to how we're going to learn by Mashiach, we're all intellectually challenged. We're
Well,
all so limited in our learning compared to how all of us are going to learn by Mashiach. Learning by Mashiach is also different than how we understand learning now, because the learning, which relates in a sense to, of course, the souls in Gan Eden and how they learn, which is also, of course, different than how we learn as human beings. It's not as much an intellectual process. It's almost more actually almost like a visual process. You're going to see, absorb, and connect to the godliness. So for the souls in Gan Eden, when they're learning, you could say, I'm saying, I'm always very bored by learning. That's what I'm going to be doing for Gan Eden. It doesn't sound like a great reward. Sorry. That's what I'm working for, to learn eternally? I mean, until Mashiach comes, maybe then I'll come back and have some fun. It does not sound like very fun. It's beyond the word fun. It's the deepest, deepest, deepest pleasure. Because all a soul wants is God. And the deepest way you get God is through Torah. Now, of course, in our world, we get God, and in Gan Eden, you don't get God. Only in our world, you can get God. In Gan Eden, you get godliness. But the deepest godliness you're getting through Torah. So every single soul, and again, as I'm saying, learning doesn't mean what we think it means, because these are souls. We're all souls at that point. But the souls are absorbing the godliness in Torah. Are they still learning the same Torah we are? Actually, yes. Actually, yes. But they understand it completely different. So, for example, in the Talmud, there's a phrase, Haloime Torah lefrakim, which means one who learns Torah intermittently. Like you learn, and then you stop learning, and you learn, and you stop learning. I mean, we can understand what that means. In Gan Eden, they learned that same phrase from the Talmud, Haloime Torah lefrakim, but they understand it completely different. They understand it to mean, which would be a very different translation, but still valid, one who learns Torah and it like breaks them apart. Meaning Torah so much seizes them, they're like, from the Torah they're learning. So in our world, it seems a lot more what we can understand. You learn Torah and you stop. You learn Torah and you stop. And in Gan Eden, that line doesn't make any sense. Like, why would a person stop? So it makes sense in their world, which is another level of the truth of this phrase from the Talmud. You learn Torah and it just seizes you up. It like breaks you up because you're so taken by the Torah. That's Gan Eden's understanding of that piece of Gemara. So they're learning Torah as we have Torah, but they're learning it is very different than us. Both these are souls. None of the glitches of like our human processes. Like even if you could, maybe a muscle for that would be hearing. We think of hearing as going through your ears, right? So what if someone has very small ear canals, or there's a lot of fluid, or well, nowadays they have a concept of having the hearing go through the bone. Skip the whole ear business. You don't need the ears. Straight from the bone, it could go straight to the hearing ability in the brain. So there's a lot of things we think of today as parts of learning, most of which is not relevant, not in Gan Eden and not by Mashiach. We will learn, but on a totally different level, and there won't be any impairments at all. There are no impairments in Gan Eden. There are no impairments by Mashiach. There's a story with the Rebbe that I think of sometimes in terms of trying to understand this idea of learning and understanding. Somebody once wrote a very, very long, deep book, long, deep sefer. And he brought it to the Rebbe. He had a yechidus, a private audience, and he brought like this thick, deep sefer. And the Rebbe, I don't have a book to demonstrate, but the Rebbe, like I'd call thumb through it. Like you could just put your thumb and the praises go. It's like in a second, the Rebbe thumbed through the book, and he like put it on his table, and he said, a very good book. And the man felt really bad. I mean, hello, I spent years writing this. Every word has so much meaning, and you're like, psh, going with your thumb over the edge of the papers, and you're telling me a very good book. Obviously, you didn't read one word. And obviously, the Rebbe, sensitive to the man's distress, started commenting on the book and said, on page such and such, in paragraph such and such, da 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 da. And the Rebbe made a few such comments. In other words, the Rebbe's point was to say, I read the book. When I went like this with my thumb across the pages, I read the book. And it's a very good book. When I said a good book, I meant it. So when the person came out of Yechidus, had his private audience, he shared what happened. Like, oh my gosh, can you imagine your Rebbe? So this is my opinion. This is only my opinion. As I said before, my opinions could be wrong. I don't think that was a miracle. I don't view that as a miracle. I view that as a human mind at its full potential. Because nowadays, our minds are not at their full potential. I don't know, I think according to science, we use, I forget the percentage, 5%, 6%, 4.5%, some such percentage of our brain cells. All of us, 90+% of our brain we don't use. Whatever, that's what science says, and that's true. So imagine a brain at 100% potential. Imagine a mind when we're actually using all of the brain cells at full capacity. Wow, that's not a miracle. That's the human mind without the junk of exile that's clogging the pores. And when I look at that story of the Rebbe, I think that's the human mind at full potential. That's what a human mind can do. So by Mashiach, with our minds at full potential, no impairments, there's no impairments by Mashiach, can't imagine what our learning is going to be like. And above, in Gan Eden, when souls are learning without any of the limitations of humanity, you imagine what that learning means. So it's the same Torah, but as we're saying, understood very differently, and not any concept of reward. Here there's reward. We said you can't put anything personally in your bank account above. So there's no reward. They're not learning for reward. There's no reward. Impossible. They're learning to have that deepest connection possible with Hashem, which we can have every time we learn Torah. But we're in this world, so we get the reward and we get to be one with God himself.
So when someone has challenges in their learning, but they work so hard, and so we talk about how such a person will have tremendous char. Like some of the kids I work with, they have challenges with their reading, with their kriya, and for them, just reading a pasuk, let alone reading, a whole parak of Tehillim, let alone how many pasukim from Chumash, the schar. So when all the challenges are taken away, is the schar still there?
The schar that they received, or you're talking moving forward? Would there be schar then when you're not challenged?
Both.
The original schar is never taken away. Lefum tsa'ara agra. According to the pain is the reward. Which isn't only true for learning. If someone has enormous challenge dressing modestly, covering their hair, enormous challenge not going on their cell phone on Shabbos, enormous challenge waiting between meat and milk, it doesn't make a difference whatever it is. Any area, Hashem knows exactly how hard things are for us. And generally things that are very hard for us are very, very important for our soul. And that's why there's this concept of tremendous reward. So you never lose reward. God doesn't do that. In terms of by Mashiach, yeah, I'm saying the whole concept of reward is totally like, it's a galus concept. It's not a geula concept. There's no scorecards by geula. Nobody's going to be doing anything for reward. There's no difficulty, there's no stress, there's no reward. In general, we do now grow through stress. We grow through challenges. We move against the current, against the force of gravity. That's how planes fly. Planes are actually literally flying because they're going against the gravity. Mashiach doesn't have that concept. There's no gravity pulling us down by Mashiach. There's no challenges. There's no difficulties. Now you're saying a child has difficulty reading and they read a pasuk anyway. A person has difficulty covering their knees and they make sure their skirts are long enough and their knees are covered anyway. They have difficulty covering their hair and they cover their hair anyway. Wow, so precious, so precious, so precious. It is. And that's a unique to Gullus situation. I mean, we've been in Gullus forever, so it seems to us a very normal situation, but it's actually a unique to Gullus situation. There will be no challenges like that by Mashiach. It doesn't exist. The word won't exist. So how do you grow? Well, you grow in a different way. You don't grow from challenges. Meaning now, most of us, most of the time, even on a practical level, when do I give God more? When there's a problem and I'm like, okay, Hashem, here's more, here's more, here's more. I need this, here's more. I need this, here's more. I'll push myself harder. I need you, I need you. That's called growing from challenges. Or this is very hard for me and I'm doing it. That's enormous growth. In our world, we have the ability to jump. There was another Rebbe story comes to mind. There was I'm not going to tell the whole story. I'm just going to bring out this point. But a Jewish man who was about to marry a non-Jewish woman and was convinced to go by the Rebbe for dollars. He had like a nice, warm Jewish heart, but just loved the girl more, And when he went by the Rebbe for dollars, and he, again, I'm not giving you all the details, but basically he told the Rebbe that he's going to marry this non-Jewish woman. The Rebbe said to him one line. He said, "Wow, you have the opportunity now to jump to the top of your," I don't know the term the Rebbe used for it. I'm saying ladder. I don't know if that was the term the Rebbe used. And I can't do that. Wow, you have such an opportunity. Now, probably the man barely caught what the Rebbe said, just a little bit, but the shliach who brought him explained to him the concept. It's like, I can do something Lubavitch Rebbe can't do. He said, yeah. Lubavitch Rebbe right now is not tempted. Should he marry this non-Jewish woman or not? You are. You know what a sacrifice you're going to go through to give up this woman? Do you know how powerful that is? The Rebbe doesn't have that challenge, so he doesn't have that opportunity. Or I remember a story with the third Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek, that someone once came to him and he said, "Oh, it's so hard for me. I so don't like learning Torah." And the Tzemach Tzedek said, very seriously, "Wow, you're so blessed. Me, I love learning Torah." Again, that was meant very seriously. You don't like learning? You've got such an opportunity. Every time you learn, you have to force yourself to learn? Wow, that's so special. Me, I like learning. I don't have that giving Hashem that this is so hard for me. I love it. So anytime in any part of Judaism, when we are struggling and don't want to do this, the more we don't want to do this, the more this is so precious to Hashem, the more this is so impactful, the more, as the Rebbe said, you jump to the top of your ladder. By Mashiach, there's no concept. By Mashiach, none of us will be challenged by Judaism. Every one of us will actually, at a certain point in Mashiach, not even be required to do it. We'll just do it anyway because we want to do it, because we want this relationship with God. We want to do what He wants. There's no concept of reward. We're not doing it for reward. There's no concept of the growth from challenge. There will be no challenges. There's no concept of getting ahead. Everyone, forever, will be moving closer and closer to Hashem, but at a certain pace. And every single one of us will be moving at the same pace. No matter what you do, you're not going to move faster. We'll all be moving. We'll all be getting closer and closer forever. No speeding ahead, no pushing harder, no jumping. No jumps allowed. Jumps don't exist. Jumps only exist in Golus when there's gravity, when there's challenge, when we're going against, when it's so hard for us. None of those things are relevant by Mashiach. So all of the stuff we're used to in exile, which to us is life and normal, won't exist. It's a totally different reality of all of us only wanting God, just like getting back to topic, the souls above. The souls above are not learning Torah for reward. They're not going to get reward for it. They're not learning Torah to know what to do. They're souls. They're learning Torah because they want God. And this is the closest they can get to God. By Mashiach, every single one of us will grab every mitzvah, though we won't have to. We'll learn Torah, though we won't have to, because we want God. And this is how we get Him. For reward, no reward. For getting higher and faster and ahead of the next guy, there's no such thing as going faster and ahead of the next guy. Because we want God, and this is how we get Him. Lisa, you have one more question, a follow-up on this?
I do.
Just one.
Sorry. So when it comes to then what is really a gullus concept versus a geula concept, then I'm suddenly thinking that my whole profession is a gullus profession
It
that
is.
really I'm about to be out of work any second.
Absolutely. Thank
And
God.
so many professions are really gullus professions. So
Absolutely.
then do we belong in them?
Soldiers, firemen, yeah,
Right.
doctors. The Rebbe said once, "What will doctors do by Mashiach? Come on, you worked all these years to be a doctor. Nobody's ill. What do you do by Mashiach?" Well, originally, when Mashiach first comes, we have the complete revelation of Mashiach. Well, first, there's going to be a massive party. So the entire world will be celebrating for a long time. Eventually, when the parties stop and we have to get back to real life, what's going to happen? So, what's going to happen is people are going to have to shift into a geula modality, shift into a geula life. For some people, that'll be very natural, and for some people, that'll be very difficult, depending a lot on who you are and
Is
how you
there
define yourself. So, if someone defines themselves by their profession, and their profession is to be a doctor, or to teach people that have difficulty learning, or to be a policeman or fireman, or to be a lawyer, in criminal court, and you know persecute. But it doesn't make a difference if you're the prosecutor or the defendant there. What are they going to do? So for some people, they will still want to cling to their work because that defines them and that's how they understand themselves. Until gradually they will realize that was my role in Golos, and it could have been a beautiful role in Golos and a very godly role in Golos, but that's not my role in Geula. That's not what I want in Geula. And they will stop their work and they'll join the world learning Torah. The Rebbe once said that doctors, in the beginning, will they'll still want to be doctors. They define themselves. I mean, not obviously not everybody, and obviously some people couldn't wait to retire and stop work, and so glad Mashiach came and they don't have to do this anymore. But for people that like this is part of their definition of self. So the Rebbe said they'll be a doctor, and other people, I guess we could say, will have Avos Yisrael, and we'll go and we'll get a checkup, and we'll be told they're completely healthy, and we'll pay them a lot of money for it because, of course, money's free flowing. So the person can still say, okay, I'm a doctor. And then gradually they won't need that anymore. Just like on a totally different level, anything you want, you can have in the physical world. So in the beginning, some people will be really into that. And for many people from the very beginning, it won't be relevant. They couldn't care less. But some people will care, and that's fine. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. Until you realize that's not really what you want to focus on. And you, like the rest of the world, will want to God and will be doing things to get God. Shira?
I'm sorry. I, if I may, though, so how do we live with a Geula mindset in the present Gullus until we're in
In
Geula?
your profession.
Right.
The Geula mindset is I am doing this, Hashem, to help your children. I'm helping your children. And that's the most beautiful profession I can have. I'm helping your children. That's what's defining my work. I'm taking care of your children. So you decontextualize the details to understand the point. I am helping your children. And that Hashem very much appreciates that his children are being helped. Shira?
So, what's going to give us the desire when Mashiach comes to actually be, interested in learning? If we can't really jump anymore once Mashiach comes, like now it's exciting. You go to high school, and then the next thing is college. You get a better job, and you get a better, salary. What is actually going to get us like interested to? We can't jump anymore.
We cannot. That's what it says, that when Mashiach comes, there's an expression in Yiddish, wir wollen banken for the Gullus tag. We'll long for the Gullus days, which means like, what will we be longing for precisely? The problems, the stress, the pain? Like, what will we be longing for? None of those things. We'll be longing for the opportunity. There is opportunity in Gullus that only exists in Gullus. Now,
So,
we'll be
what's going to
very,
give us
very,
the
very, very, very
desire?
glad that Gula came, and we're not moving backwards. We don't. The fact that we long for it doesn't mean we want it. We'll just sort of almost feel like, oh, there'll also be a sense of wasted opportunities. There's so much opportunity in Golos that only exists in Golos. The whole jumping concept only exists in Golos. So when Geula comes, there'll be a little bit of like, oh my gosh, I had all that opportunity. I knew it. I wasn't like the world, the Tinok Shanispa part of the world. I knew. I knew everything. I knew it all. Why did I waste my time on the pettiness that's irrelevant when I could have been grabbing and grabbing and grabbing? There will be that feeling. There will be. But when Mashiach comes, we are changing. What drives us now will not drive us. What will drive us will be the desire for God. So why would someone learn Torah when they are not getting rewarded for it? They're not. They're not getting ahead of anyone else, which is how we function in American society. All that's gone. They're going to learn Torah because I want God, and this is the best way to get him. I'm going to do a mitzvah again. We're going to, by the second stage of Mashiach, we won't be commanded anymore. It's not just there's no reward or punishment. There's literally not going to be a command. No commands. Free. Do whatever you want. But I like mitzvahs, so to speak. God is telling us you don't have to do them. Why won't we be commanded by Mashiach? Because you can't command yourself. You can command something outside yourself. You can't command yourself. And by the second stage of Mashiach, we will be so close to Hashem, Hashem can't command us anymore. We're him. We're one. We're fused. So why will we be making Pesach when we don't have to? Of course, you'll have all these people that will want to help you and da-da-da-da-da. We know that too. But I never liked matzah, so to speak. I don't want to be bothered, so to speak. Why am I doing it? Because I know this is what God likes. And I love him so much and want to be so fused with him that whatever he wants, that's what I want. If you can,
Why would Hashem want that?
because he loves it. He loves it.
No,
every
doesn't
mitzvah is
he?
something he wants. Not
No,
because
doesn't he rather us do like the jump and like
Oh,
have
you're
like the
saying why does he want
Sahara?
the Ula then, and why doesn't he want a Skullas? You're saying not why does he
Yeah,
want
like
mitzvahs. You're
it's
saying why
it's
does he
almost
want an arrow where we can't jump?
it's so much more rewarding that like I have a desire to something and I'm gonna choose you over that desire. Why would he want it where we all just naturally want to do what he wants? Like big deal.
So, it's like this. When the world was created for Mashiach. The first pasuk of all of Torah, Reish Yisrael Kimesh Shemayim V'Saaretz. The second pasuk, V'Aretz Ha'Yisai Tohu V'Vohu V'Choshech Al Pnei Tehom V'Ruach Elokim Merachefes Al Pnei Hamayim. It was darkness, it was water, all it was water, a world of water, couldn't see any land. And the Spirit of God hovered over the face of the water. And our sages say, Zerucho Shel Mashiach. This was the spirit of Melech HaMashiach. The primordial vision of creation was Melech HaMashiach. Why? Because that's why Hashem created. Meaning, there is an enormous pleasure that he gets when you're challenged and overcome. When you don't want to do it and do it anyway. That's tremendous pleasure for God. It is. And therefore tremendous reward for us and tremendous movement in our growth and connection to him. All that's true. But that's not why he created the world. That's like a really nice thing, but not why he created the world. It's almost like, I don't know, I'm thinking this is a really silly mushal that just came to my head. When I would bake cakes, in my earlier years, I had a lot of little kids around. My children would love the batter, right? You finish pouring the batter into the pan, and then there's always a batter on the spatula and the bowl and the mixers. And my kids would be, this one got the bowl, and this one got the spatula, and this one got the mixers, and they would love the batter. I didn't make the mixture for the extras that they were enjoying. I made the mixture for the cake that was going to come out of the oven. But they could tell me, and I remember one of my sons would say, "Ma, the batter is much better than the cake." Fine, you're a child, you think the batter is better than the cake. In the end of the day, I'm making it for the cake, I'm not making it for the batter. So that's a pretty silly mushal that just came to my head. But it's sort of the point I'm trying to say. Hashem has enormous pleasure, and you have enormous growth and enormous reward from overcoming challenges. That's not why he created this world. He created this world because he wants Mashiach. Why does Hashem want Mashiach? Our sages say in 4 places in the Midrash, 4 different Midrashim say the same thing. God created this world because he wants a home. I think that's why we have a deep craving for a home, because we mirror God intuitively, and he wants a home. What does a home mean? A permanent revelation of his essence. That's what he wants. Why does he want that? You can't ask why anyone wants anything. Why do you like vanilla ice cream and someone else likes chocolate? We don't know why he wants it, but we know what he wants. So along the way, you're licking the batter but the point is the cake. There's enormous pleasure from your growth. There's enormous pleasure from your overcoming challenges. That's on the road. What he wants a home. He wants a permanent revelation of his essence and being down here in this physical world. That's why he's doing it. And we merit to be his partners in the process. Because as we work in Gullus, we are creating that home for God. So every time when it's hard and when it's easy and when it's harder even more so, we're building this world and making it his home. And that's what he wants. Dina?
Yeah, I wanted to just piggyback off of Elisa's question with the jobs. So, what about jobs that are like Torah jobs, a Rebbe Vashal or a Rebbe or Rebbeim or anything that's involved in that? Like, what's going to happen with that?
With those people by Mashiach? So it depends who they are and what they're doing. Meaning, just like there'll be many, so to speak, I won't say out of work because that implies a negative. I'll call them retired, moved on in their life. Doctors and lawyers and firemen and policemen and soldiers and myriads of professions. So many professions. Locksmiths. Well, what do you need a lock for, Pamshia?
We
Handyman. I think.
appropriate. We appropriated.
Okay. Yes. So some nice term for that. What are all those people going to be doing? They're going to be learning Torah. They're going to be learning Torah to connect to Hashem. Now, that doesn't mean they lose who they are and they lose their identity. In my vision, I think people will find out creative talents they have that they never had the luxury of expressing. So I think, I could be wrong, but I think a lot of people, just like some people in their elder years, discover they're artistic or they write or they sing or they dance, and they never knew this about themselves. They never had the luxury of finding this out about themselves. So I think when Mashiach comes, people will find out a lot of the talents they never knew they had because they never had the time to have them. And they can use all that by Geula. All the arts will exist by Geula. Art and writing and painting and dancing and singing and all the performances and all of that will be used to rejoice in Hashem and to express that joy. And I think of imagine the people that are good at biographies or documentaries. Imagine being able to interview Avram and ask him what was he feeling by the Akedah, Imagine being able to sit down with Rashi and saying, what was the real question? What question were you answering in this Rashi? Oh my gosh. So everybody will do things that not everyone's going to be interested in that Rashi questionnaire. And not everyone's interested in Avram's feelings by the Akedah. But people will have a lot of ability to do a lot of things, the luxury of doing all the things that is pulling them. But the overarching thing is learning Torah. So if someone's a shul rabbi or a rebbe, is he going to be a teacher or is he going to be a student? I think in essence that's sort of your question.
Yeah.
It depends on who he is and what the need is. And maybe someone in the beginning stages who's really good at foundational teaching, maybe he will be needed. But again, remember, every righteous Jew that ever lived, every tzaddik is going to have Tchias HaMesim right away. Tchias HaMesim is over a period of 40 years. But every tzaddik is resurrected immediately, that day. So are you going to be teaching when there's a far more qualified, teacher around? Are you going to want to be a teacher? Or are you going to want to be a student?
Are kids gonna is it the same structure as someone's teaching children?
None of the structures are going to be the same because our process of learning is going to be different. As I said, primarily learning, we're told, whatever this means, we'll find out, is going to be by seeing. We're going to see the godliness and absorb it. The ultimate teacher is going to be Melech HaMashiach. Melech HaMashiach will teach, not that he'll be the only teacher, but he'll be the ultimate teacher of all of the Jewish people. So here we'll have all the Jewish people, right? Imagine that for bringing. We're going to have millions and millions of people, some of whom dedicate their lives to Torah, some of whom have been in Gan Eden learning Torah for 1,000 years, some of whom just came out of Golos and with zero knowledge. How is everyone going to be at the same gathering? How's everyone going to be at the same Farbrengen? How's everyone be learning Torah? As we're all going to get the energy, the God within Torah, as per our capacity. I envision this, my muscle for this in my mind is like going to an art gallery or going to a concert. You have 1,000 people, 10,000 people, I have no clue, at a concert. They're all enjoying the music, that's why they're there. But some people gain so much more than others, depending on your background and your knowledge, and you know this ensemble, and the more you're exposed and the more you're a professional musician listening, you get a lot more than I would get. But we're all listening to the same music, and we're all getting something, but we're all getting different as per our capacity. So that's what's going to happen. Melech HaMashiach is going to teach the entire Jewish people Torah. But every one of us will learn based on our ability to receive. But at the same time, I'm sure Rashi will be giving classes, and I'm sure Rambam will be giving classes. I'm sure Ramban will be giving classes. I'm sure Rabbi Yosef Cairo will be teaching halacha. You know, which class do you want to go to? Imagine you could go to learn halacha from Rabbi Yosef Cairo. You could go to learn chumash from Rashi. You could learn Hakira from the Rambam. Go to Rabbi Yehuda Halevi and learn in the Kuzari. Like you can do whatever you want. It's all going to be there. So will the shul rabbis and teachers of today be part of that opportunities? Maybe in a limited capacity for some people if it works, but if it doesn't, they won't mind learning. It's not like, oh, all we can do is learn and for eternity. Oh my gosh. No, we're going to love it. We're going to want it. It's going to be amazing. Shira?
What about the Jews who either don't know they're Jewish or don't know anything? How are they going to possibly relate to Rashi in any way? They don't know anything. They're clueless.
Right.
So
That's what
what?
I meant, that maybe some of those teachers, that was actually what I was referring to when I meant to Dina, that maybe some people will be really good at teaching foundational things and they will be the teachers of those people. That's what it says, that there'll be so
No,
many.
no, I'm still going back to, I'm talking about like the point of them not, about people not being able to jump and grow.
Oh, so they will never, yes, they will never be able to jump. They will
That's so
continually
sad.
grow. Well,
It's not really their fault though.
it's
Somebody
not,
wasn't
it's
raised
not, we're not gonna,
religious.
well, first of all, there's a lot of first of alls. First of all, each person is a very individual situation, and we don't know where they're really holding. Remember, we're a composition of many lifetimes. So maybe
Oh,
someone
that's
who's in
true.
this world and
Yeah.
unfortunately knows very little and is doing very little, but maybe in their previous lifetimes they accrued so much, but they did need to do something in this world that hopefully they did do, even though we don't know what they're doing, and they might not know what they're doing. But that does make a difference. God could give them such challenges and they could grow so much. Like I was saying, all these people that were massacred on October 7th, high majority were completely secular. But they now gave God this amazing thing of dying al Kiddush Hashem. But what about everything else you have to do in this world? Maybe they accomplished that in previous lifetimes. Maybe that was what they needed to do for God. So every person, wherever they are, any person, that's what I said. On one hand, will long for the Gullah's days. Will look back and say, what a waste of all that opportunity. I had so much time and I knew. I'm not the Jew that doesn't know he's Jewish. I'm not the Jew that has no clue what God is and what a soul is. And I knew everything. And what was I thinking? I'll look at it says when Mashiach comes, we're gonna, our Yetzer Hara, which is an angel, will come out and we'll see it. It's gonna be this tiny little nothing. Look at this little black dot, and that was causing me all those problems. That's what I wasted all my time on, that little nothing. Like you put your finger in front of your eyes and you block the sun. That's what I could have done so much. But again, we're not going to want to go backwards. We're going to want Mashiach, but we're going to feel like, oh, how did I not do that? But
No, but
wherever
are
we're
you
holding,
saying, but are you
wherever,
saying that it's not just the lifetime when right now Mashiach comes, but we can possibly learn from previous lifetimes?
no, what I was saying was that when you're looking at a Jew who doesn't know he's Jewish or doesn't know what it means to be a Jew, and Mashiach comes, so you're envisioning him on the bottom of the ladder. And he can never jump. So
Yeah.
even though he's 50 million miles below you, you will grow and he will grow eternally, but you'll always be 50 million miles above him. That's true,
But why? But why?
but what I'm saying is
Why? What?
maybe he's not on the bottom of the ladder. Because maybe since every one of us is a composite of all our previous lifetimes, maybe because of his previous lifetimes, he's far higher on the ladder than you imagine. So he's not at baseline zero, even though in this lifetime he seemed to be. So he has a lot of merits that actually he is closer to Hashem. Now, I'm not saying he's where you're holding. I have no clue. Obviously, when Mashiach comes, it's not communism. It's not that we will all be in the same place. We will not all be in the same place. That's very clear. And is it sad? It is what it is. We're not going to be, that's what I'm saying. Human nature is going to change. We're going to lose that negative competitive edge. We will still have a competitive edge, but it'll be in a godly way. That it says, like it says in the Talmud or in Hasidus it's explained, we'll look at what other people are doing and we'll be like, wow, I love how she davens. I want to daven that way. Not a competition like, oh, she's ahead of me. Oh, she's davening better. Oh, I feel bad about myself because she's so, no. It will just inspire my growth. Wow, she's such a kind, compassionate person. I want to be like that. So we're going to look at other people and see the qualities they have that we don't have, and we're going to want to emulate them, but without any of the negative garbage. That's gullus. It says about Adam and Chava, when they were first created, there was like a miniature Mashiach, so to speak, in a sense. They were naked and they weren't embarrassed. There was no problem with their nakedness because they didn't have any evil to understand there's any problems with it. So
Right.
similarly, we have a lot of hangups in our brain that are just because we've lived in Golas for thousands of years. So we have this hang up. If someone has more than me, I feel bad. Not necessarily I want to take it away from them. I'm not a bad person. I'm happy they have what they have. But I have a house that's worth $1 million and this person's house that's worth $3 million. I feel bad. Or I have a little bit of nachas from my children. This person has so much nachas from their children. I feel bad. Not that I'm hurtful for them. I don't want them to get harmed. I feel bad about my situation because I compare my situation to someone else's situation. That's normal Golos mindset. Doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't mean you wish bad for anyone else. You don't at all. You're so happy they have it, but you feel bad that you don't have it. That's Golos. That's not healthy thinking. Healthy thinking, geula thinking, I don't have, and I look at what I do have, and I appreciate what I do have, and I'm happy with it. So if when Mashiach comes, there's this Yid, there's this Jew who seemingly did nothing in this world, actually he's far higher than you realize because he has previous lifetimes, but he's still much lower than you. He's not 50 million miles lower than you, he's 20 million miles lower than you, but he's still lower than you. He's not going to feel bad. He's going to be focusing on his growth and on his connection to Hashem. And if he sees you and he's aware of things you're doing better, it inspires him to do more. He doesn't feel bad. So yes, for eternity, he will never be where you are because he'll catch up to you. But by then you'll be far ahead. And then he'll catch up to where you were, but then you'll be far ahead. Yes, that will happen. But nobody's going to feel bad. We're going to feel good how much we're doing and growing and getting closer and closer to Hashem, which is all we want.
What about the neshamas who don't have to come back because they already fulfilled their purpose?
All those neshamas will have Tchias HaMesim. Every neshama wants Tchias
And
HaMesim.
then what? What are they? They're just
Exactly what we're doing. They're going to be serving Hashem and getting closer and closer and
but
closer.
aren't they? Wouldn't they be at the highest level since they didn't have to come back and they accomplished everything their soul was supposed to?
No,
Where
because
are they going to be holding?
wherever they're holding, they could be higher or lower than you. Everybody's different. Meaning they could have fulfilled their purpose, but that doesn't mean they're higher than you. Maybe because you worked harder on the things you accomplished, you're higher than them. When the Rebbe said to this person who wanted to intermarry, wow, I'm jealous of you, the Rebbe wasn't making a joke. The Rebbe wasn't being facetious. The Rebbe was saying something very serious. You have an opportunity to go, in a sense, higher than Lubavitcher Rebbe because I'm not challenged like that. So you could be challenged in a way this soul who fulfilled their purpose isn't challenged. That's why everyone is very complex. We don't know who's higher, who's lower. And you know what? By Mashiach, we're not going to care. We're not going to feel bad that we're lower or good that we're higher. Each one of us independently is going to be in a relationship with Hashem. That's what we're going to care about. And if you see someone lower than you or higher than you, that's serving Hashem better than you, you're going to want to emulate them because you want to serve Hashem best. Because you want Hashem. That's what you want. That's what I want. And the crazy thing is, that's what every single human being, including every non-Jew, is going to want. Every single human being will want is Hashem. So all the non-Jews who will be non-Jews, they'll be non-Jews forever. Once Mashiach comes, there's no conversion. All those non-Jews, all they'll want is Hashem. Well, they can never get Hashem like a Jew. True. So will they spend their lifetime feeling bad? No. They'll be happy in what they get. So the Jew that's lower than you, will he spend eternity feeling bad? No. He'll spend eternity being happy in the relationship he's getting because every day it gets better. It's like when you're first married, I don't know, when you first get engaged, you think, oh my gosh, we're so in love. And then over the course of the engagement, oh, I thought that was love. Oh my gosh, oh, this is so much better. And then you get married. Oh my gosh, I thought that was love. This is so much better. And then after like a month and after like a year and after like the first child, I'm saying in this ideal good marriage, you keep looking back and thinking, I thought that was love. I thought that was a relationship. This is the real thing. That's what every person is going to feel like by Mashiach. They just want Hashem. And it keeps getting better and better and better. So they're not going to be focused on, oh, but I'm never going to be where Shiva's holding. I'm never going to be where this one is. I'm never going to be where this one is. That's not a mindset. That's a Golos mindset. They're going to be happy in what they have, in what they are, in what they are personally accomplishing and getting closer and closer. Eliza?
Okay, going back to this advertisement of taking a shir from the Orach Chaim or one by Rashi or one, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, talk about kid in a candy store. Like, I want to go. So if we're not bound by our goof and we're just a free
No, you're physical by Mashiach. You're not
Oh, we are?
disembodied souls. Yeah, you're physical, 100%.
Oh, I had this dream that maybe my neshama could go everywhere at
No,
once. And
absolutely
it
not.
could go,
No, no,
so
no, no.
then,
That's Gan Eden. That's not Mashiach. Gan Eden,
oh,
you're a disembodied soul. By Mashiach, no. You're a soul. You're a human being. You're a soul in
oh,
a body. You will live forever. You will be eternally healthy. You will not have any problems. But you are a physical soul in a physical body containing your soul. Absolutely. So no, you cannot be in two places at once.
so we have to prioritize.
Yes,
I,
you're gonna have to prioritize. Sorry, Miriam.
I,
Yeah, so so when Mashiach comes and let's say you die, do you come back at that same age? How does that
Yes.
work?
If a person passed away, they're reborn. Everyone that has Tchias HaMesim, Tchias HaMesim will be a process. It says tzaddikim get up first. All the tzaddikim get up instantly. Any tzaddik from any, that's what I'm saying. If it's Abraham or if it's Rashi or it's any tzaddik that ever lived whose names we know or don't know, Hashem knows who are the tzaddikim, they will all get up instantly that first day. And then it's going to be a process of 40 years. At whatever point the person is resurrected, we are told they're resurrected exactly as when they passed away. So if this was a child, if this was someone that went through a fire, if this was someone that was blind, if this was someone that was paralyzed, whatever age and whatever stage, that's what happens. That's how the body comes back.
So wait, one more. I'm sorry. Yeah.
They come back as they were at the moment of passing. And then two things happen. One thing is there's healing. So if someone was blinded or burnt or cut up or whatever it is, there's instant healing to the body because there's nothing negative by Mashiach. There's no illness. So there's instant healing. And then they start aging. Question is how old they were. If they're under 20, they age year after year until they're 20 years old. If they're over 20, every one of us who's over 20, our bodies actually grow younger year after year until we get to the body of a 20-year-old. We're told that when Adam and Chava were created, they were created as 20-year-olds. And that was considered like the peak physical. We're not talking about maturation or intellect, we're talking about physical. So not that our brains are gonna demature or something, but our physical bodies will actually grow younger and younger and younger to have the youth and vitality and prime of a 20-year-old. Once a person reaches age 20, their body stays that way forever. It doesn't mean they don't count their birthdays. They can still have birthdays. They could be 150, they could be 270. The birthdays will still continue, but the physical body, everyone's physical body, will be the physical body of a 20-year-old.
Oh, it's
Not
like
how
the
you
movie.
were when you were 20, because all of us were impacted by Golos, but the physical peak perfection of a 20-year-old body.
So we go backwards. So
Yes,
it's like that movie Benjamin Button. I don't know if you ever saw it. It's like going backwards
yes,
and you get younger.
yes, young every year, and a year-by-year basis. Meaning, if someone lived, God, thank God, till 105, they're going to be 20 and 80 some years. It doesn't mean that they're going to be ill for the first 30 years of it. No, there's no illness by Mashiach. But still, their body won't be the body of a 20-year-old. It'll be the body of a 103-year-old, and then a 102-year-old, and a 101-year-old. They're going to go back till they're age 20. That's what we're told. Maybe it'll be faster than year by year. I always understood it as year by year. Maybe it'll be a bit faster, but it's growing back gradually to that age. But until they get there, their bodies are completely healthy. There's no ill health. There's no impairments. There's no infirmities. They're all completely healthy, but the body of a 20-year-old is different. And that's where they're going to that point. And once we reach that point, however long it takes, that's the eternal state of our body because Mashiach is eternal. So forever, that's our bodies. Perfect health, and what that means, that peak perfection of the body. Just like we're going to have a peak perfection of our mind, and we're going to use 100% capacity, not 5 or 7 or 6 or 4.5. We're going to have peak perfection of our bodies. The whole world will be perfect. It's such a different world. Just like, saying, I'm not going to feel bad because someone's ahead of me. No, that's a gullus issue. So there's so much that we look at through the paradigm of gullus. I mean, we've been gullus for 5,700 some years. None of that will be there. It will just be the world as it's supposed to be. God completely revealed and every single one of us connecting to him. That's going to be the world.
Sounds great.
It does. It does. It sounds like what we want. Because trust me, all the problems we're all burdened with, even the ones of us that have the best life possible, the ones that are so blessed, and we know we're blessed every day, we still have a lot of burdens. It will be really nice to just have Geula.